The first item on the agenda is an overview for 2011 from the newly renamed California Technology Agency, formerly known as the OCIO, Office of the Chief Information Officer.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Adrian Farley, I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the state of California.
Adam Donder, Legislative Director, California Technology Agency.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Erica Lee, LAO.
Joan Gregg, Finance.
Madam Chair, members, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. I'd like to start off by giving you a brief explanation of who the California Technology Agency is and what we do, since the agency is newly established and the organization generally is new to many of you. Our office was created to fill a void that existed in the oversight of the state's IT operations and programs. For several years prior to our establishment, there was no centralized IT organization to oversee the technical aspects of large information technology projects or the state's IT program as a whole. Our current structure was largely created through the Governor's Reorganization Plan number 1 of 2009, which was codified unanimously by the legislature in AB 2408 last year. These measures lead to the consolidation of IT operations under the technology agency and establish us as the central point for IT planning, oversight, and management within state government. So what exactly do we do? Our primary objective is to ensure that all executive branch agencies properly resource their IT needs to achieve the best programmatic and policy results for Californians, while ensuring these resources are acquired in the most cost-effective way. We are working continually to minimize redundancies in government systems and find efficiencies anywhere possible. As part of that effort to minimize redundancy, we have established a capital planning process that requires all departments and agencies within the executive branch to plan their IT projects over a 5-year horizon, allowing both policymakers as well as oversight agencies the ability to review statewide plans before funds are invested in them. In addition, our office performs oversight of statewide IT issues, including information security, as well as the overall project planning efforts and of the state's public safety communication systems, including the 911 emergency telephone system. As I've mentioned, we've undertaken a number of efforts to eliminate duplication and enhance the efficiency of state government. Over the last year, we've undertaken efforts to consolidate the state's email systems, as well as many of the other components of the state's IT infrastructure. These efforts have led to greater efficiency, and they've also resulted in significant cost avoidances and savings. Specifically, the state has reduced overall data center square footage by over 100,000 square feet, avoiding capital costs of about $45 million and ongoing costs of $25 million on an annual basis. The programmatic benefits of these efforts are also significant insofar as by establishing a base and consolidated IT infrastructure, the state's agencies and programs can focus on the key applications that drive the business of performing services for Californians rather than the underlying technology used to deliver those services. Beyond consolidation, we've also focused on how state agencies can serve their constituents as effectively as possible. For example, we worked with state agencies to redesign the state's web portal, which was recognized this year by the Center for Digital Government as the best government web portal in the nation. More visitors come to California's web portal, 8.2 million unique users on a monthly basis. That's more than Florida, Texas, New York, Illinois, and the federal government's portal combined. In addition, we've established more than 40 mobile applications so that people using all sorts of different devices can access government information and applications, including information about state hospitals, parks, and other government offices. And we've established a toolkit that enables other state agencies to easily create new applications to make information more accessible to Californians. The state's online portal has allowed government to offer effective and efficient services to millions of Californians. For example, more than 2.6 million online transactions are processed on a quarterly basis online for people seeking all sorts of things, including motor vehicle registration. And over 11 million taxpayers e-filed using the state's online systems last year. In addition, our office is focused on how we can enhance the process of procuring IT projects and better invest in technology. AB 2408 establishes in statute our role in establishing IT procurement policy, as well as involves us in the review and oversight of IT contracts. One of the most critical things that we do is focus on how IT projects are delivered. Since 2008, we've established an IT project management training program that has trained more than 1,000 both IT and business executives within state government. Project management training, as well as a consistent project management methodology, are critical to the effective and efficient delivery of complex IT systems. Technology is the easy part. Delivery of the complex business process re-engineering and the change management that goes with that re-engineering are the most complicated. And this training methodology, as well as the framework, allows state agencies to effectively address those issues. In 2010, in the last 12 months, more than 75% of the IT projects that have been completed were on time or on budget, which is a critical step forward considering the history of IT in California. With that, I think I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, to answer any questions you or members of the committee may have.
Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Just a couple, if I may. I'm curious overall whether any analysis has been done of any change in your needs or expectations if, in fact, the governor's proposal on realignment becomes law and we move significant amounts of state performed duties to the local level.
Our organization already performs services to over 500 state, local, and federal government agencies. And so we have strong partnerships with, for example, the County Welfare Directors Association. We work very closely with them, for example, around the integrated welfare management systems. So I'm sure there will be changes required to those systems. And one of the major efforts underway, for example, is the replacement of the existing Los Angeles SAWS system. And so that's something that I'd certainly like to have a deeper conversation with you about, and the kinds of things that might need to go into that planning effort.
I don't know if the opportunity might present itself as we go through the spring to digging into this a little bit, but it seems to me conceptually there could be some real impact on what your requirements are.
Sure, there are certainly opportunities that go along with the challenges, if you will.
Second question, and it follows on to a certain extent, is you're projecting a 14% growth in demand, essentially, in the coming year, whereas in earlier years that growth has been in the mid-single digits, 4, 5, 6%. Can you describe to us why you see this 2 to 3 times the level of growth that has been the case over the last several years, now applying to both the current year and the next fiscal year?
Sure. The primary drivers for this are two. One, which is for many years we had excess capacity within our mainframe environment, and so we were just adding incrementally to go above that. In addition, there have been significant software upgrades that have necessitated increased processing power for these applications.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, first of all, want to begin by applauding the efforts that you've outlined here over the recent months in making some efforts to eliminate expenses and redundancies and some improvements. As I look at this request, though, the thing that strikes me about this one and the budget change proposal coming up, you're looking for 9 new positions here and 23 in the second item on our agenda, and I'm questioning whether now is perhaps the right time, or more likely, in my view, the wrong time to ask for new positions. How much are those new positions going to cost us? And if we are, in fact, making some realignments, as Assemblyman Dickinson mentioned and as in the governor's proposal, and other changes, might it not be something we look at down the road and see if we actually need new positions or can move staffing into some of these open positions, or otherwise deal with, well, what is that, 32 new positions that your office is asking for?
I appreciate your question. I think maybe we've jumped ahead. We were doing the overview of just the California Technology Agency, and we're going to take up the actual BCPs, the budget request, next. So maybe we can allow them to speak, if anyone else has any questions about the agency itself and what it does, and then we can allow them to actually speak to and present the issue, and hopefully they'll answer that question since they now know what it is, and if not...
I'm happy to have it handled however you would like, Madam
Does that
Chair.
work?
All right.
Thank you, Assemblymember, for your
right.
question.
Thank you. Assemblymember
Come
Allen.
back to it.
Yes, I realize this is an overview that we've seen today, but where could you direct me as to finding the place where the 87 projects you mentioned are listed, and their status and their costs?
All of our projects that we have under oversight are posted on. The status of those projects is updated for the high criticality projects, is updated on a monthly basis, as well as all the underlying budgetary information for all those projects is all posted on our website. And I'd be happy to give you that link.
And we're hoping to have follow-up hearings. My biggest concern with trying to get into specific projects at this hearing was that we could have gone on for hours and hours and hours, and
I agree.
not
I
ask
don't want to get into
questions.
specific
Right.
projects today. I just want to know where I can find the information. Thank you.
Yes.
I have a general question, because when you look at realignment, it seems to me if you have a state program, it's going to make much more sense to have one central system for dealing with it, instead of having systems in each of the counties that may or may not communicate with one another. Do you have any sort of overall assessment of where we are with some of these legacy programs? You know, I know there are counties that still run programs off of COBOL. There are some that are still manual that we have. So do you, in general?
Yeah, the state actually has completed the migration from many of the COBOL-based systems, and the ones that were out there have been re-architected. The state has transitioned to 3 primary welfare systems: the LRS system, which the leader system would replace. The other is CalWin, which has undergone a significant modernization, and then the most well-recognized one is C4, that, for example, won a major technology award this year. So many counties have transitioned to the C4 system off the old legacy ISOS system, which was essentially 14 legacy systems that we've been able to turn off. So turning off those systems has, I think, generated about will generate over the next 5 years about $200 million in savings.
And getting past the welfare system, when you look at the other systems that we have in terms of other systems that are still either at the county or the state level.
Most of the other systems are less fragmented in terms of separate systems based in consortia. For example, one of the more modern programs that was established after a lack of success was the child support automation system. So that system, for example, is modernly developed and was just rolled out in 2000. The final elements of that were rolled out in 2008. And it passed federal certification. So that system is moving, for example, from IBM's data center in San Jose into the state's data center in Rancho Cordova, and will accrue some savings due to that move. In addition, under procurement is the child welfare service system, but there's a statewide system, and it's a matter of bringing that system into compliance with SACWIS federal SACWIS regulations.
And my understanding with the child support system is that it came either crashed or came very close to crashing before we began to fix it. So
yeah, there were several previous and aborted efforts, some that began as multiple systems that interconnected, and then there was an effort prior to, there were serious governance challenges. It was never really a technology problem. So as soon as the separate child support agencies were established, it became a higher priority, and people became more willing to make compromise, if you will.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is that in those areas where we do have the old legacy systems, you can't hire COBOL programmers to try and keep them up and running, and there is a cost that you have in not upgrading them to current technology standards.
Certainly,
Yeah.
and that's one of the areas that we're looking at for opportunities to reduce costs, and that is identifying the total amount the state spends in aggregate and on a per program and project basis on the support of legacy systems, and what the cost benefit would be for modernization or transformation of those systems to more modern systems.
I mean, I know from my school board days when we upgraded our basic accounts receivable, our whole financial system, we actually had a system that worked better and were able to reduce overall costs, allowing us to put more money into our classrooms.
Yeah, there's a significant body of evidence that supports modernization.
Anyway, are there any other questions? So maybe we can move on to our budget request then.